Imagine that this folder is a dimensional plane. Now, assuming that it is no height and no depth, what would this mean? It would mean that it's a one-dimensional world. So if, hypothetically, an organism was living inside of it, it would only be able to move in a linear path forward and backwards in a straight line. Now, if we go to the second dimension, we have two dimensions. We have width and we have length. So hypothetically, if an organism lived inside of here, then it would be able to move up, down, left, right, and anywhere else in between. And a two-dimensional world is comprised of an infinite series of one-dimensional worlds stacked upon each other. Just as our three-dimensional world, which has depth and length and height, is comprised of an infinite series of two-dimensional worlds. So, now that I have stacked many folders upon each other, we have three dimensions. We have depth, we have length, and we have width. Now what happens if you keep going on from here on out? We would have a four-dimensional world, but what exactly is a fourth dimension? In order to understand this, we need to understand how dimensions are perceived. We live in the three-dimensional world, but despite that, we actually view things to be two-dimensionally. Take a perfect sphere, for example. If you're looking at a sphere, it looks just like a regular two-dimensional circle. The only way that you can tell it's an actual sphere instead of a circle is because of the hues of light on it. So just like in a two-dimensional world, if a organism in the two-dimensional world was looking upon a circle, the light would make it appear to be lighter at one end and darker in the middle. Also, if an object is moving closer and farther away from you, you don't actually perceive that it's getting closer and farther away. You see that it's getting smaller or larger, and then you assume that it's getting either farther away or closer. But let's say that an object was to grow in perfect equilibrium, so that it was growing at the same speed that it was shrinking as you move it farther away. Then you would not be able to tell, without any lights or if there were details on the object, that it's moving or growing at all. You may have assumed that since we perceive things to be in two dimensions, that a two-dimensional organism would see in one dimension. So, as we're watching this rubber band expand as it moves farther away from this little organism in the two-dimensional world, it does not actually perceive anything is happening to it because it's growing at the same speed that it's moving farther away. But since we can actually see it from the three-dimensional world and perceive things to be in two dimensions, we can see things for how they actually are. The reason that the two-dimensional organism doesn't see things the way they really are is because the two-dimensional organism sees things in one dimension, just how we, three-dimensional creatures, see things in two dimensions. So in a way, we don't really see our world the way it truly is. A four-dimensional creature, however, seeing our three-dimensional world in three dimensions, would be able to see through things, would be able to see absolutely everything.
What's going on, YouTube? I know it's been a minute since I've posted, but it doesn't matter. Today, God got on my back and was like, you need to do this, you need to post. You need to spread the information, spread the knowledge that you know. I'm listening. So yeah, I'm right here. If it weren't for him, I just got off of work, I'd be doing something else. I'd be distracted doing something else. But look, right? It's besides the point. Okay, I remember seeing this video when I was younger, and I understood it until I didn't. Right? So even now, I watched up until the 2 minute 30 second point, and I pretty much got what I needed already. I just wanted him to kind of confirm where I'm at. All right, what he says is an object stuck on a plane cannot perceive an object or any action on any plane above it, right? Which is a fact. If you watch the video, you can follow that logic. If you apply that same logic to the dimension we're on, the third dimension, there's a fourth dimension, obviously, at least. There's a dimension above ours. The third dimension consists of, what are the five senses? Sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. that's what you can do on this third dimension, right? So if you can't see, hear, smell, taste, or touch something, it's unexplainable, because we're on the third dimension, right? Things such as thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, right? These things aren't explained by science at all. Let's just start on thoughts and ideas, right? Thoughts and ideas start unseen in the brain. You can't see, touch, smell, hear. You can't do none of that. You can't do that with thoughts and ideas, right? But they're proven to be real. As a man can't create anything, they can't work, they can't engage in any action without thinking about it or having an idea beforehand, right? What this means is that nothing on this plane, specifically the third dimensional plane, nothing can happen here without the influence of the fourth dimension first. I hope you're following along. I'm trying to be as clear as possible. I'm trying not to use nerd terms and nerd. I'm trying not to use nerd terms. Anyway, like I said, thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, those can't be explained by science. Personally, that's why I think science is stupid, but scientists experiment on the anatomy all the time, right? Like, they experiment on people all the time, the brain. That's done often and all throughout history of humankind, right? But still, to this day, things like love, hate, depression, anxiety, these things can't be explained still. Which is interesting to me. What their answer usually to these things are therapy, drugs, or maybe even telling you just doing what makes you happy, right? Which sounds good, right? It sounds like it'll work initially, but if you just use your brain like most people refuse to do, when you're put on this earth as a child, none of these defects are going on inside of you, right? And as a kid, you weren't going to therapy or doing drugs or whatever. You were just a kid. And as a kid, it's like you're running off the endless possibilities in this life because you know nothing, right? So why is that? Why is it that none of these defects are happening to us without the use of any of these quote-unquote fixes or remedies? Why is that? Does anybody ask themselves that? Pretty much everything I've referred to up to now, if you're following along, is unseen. Can't be seen, can't be smelled, can't be touched or tasted or heard as a human, right? As a third dimensional human, right? So therefore the phrase "have to see it to believe it" is foolish. I have to see something to believe it. I have to see something to know it's true, which is foolish. Things are going on every single day and you don't know about it. Does that mean that it wasn't true or it didn't happen because you weren't present? You feel me? And also, this is kind of a little side point, but things are told to you that they're happening, and even if you don't see it, if you're told that that thing is happening, you will believe it. Why? Because as we grow up, we start to lean on other people's understanding of this life. And in doing that, we actually stop thinking for ourselves and using our own brain that we were given by our creator. As a kid, nobody can tell you you can't do anything. As a kid, you're told you can achieve whatever. And if somebody tells you can't do something, you're not going to listen as a kid, right? But as we get older, we start to listen. We start to give in because we see we're fed all these things that influence us into thinking these certain goals or actions or tasks are unachievable. It's almost like fear and doubt are taught to us, right? I hope that makes sense. So if we go back to the video, right, that I put in the intro, it insists that as third dimensional beings, we wouldn't be able to explain or comprehend what's happening in the fourth dimension, or the dimension above ours, right? You can only physically see the result on this third dimensional plane. It doesn't mean action isn't being taken on the fourth dimension because you don't see it or you don't understand it. Does that make sense? A lot of people just can't comprehend that in itself. So the conclusion I personally came to is that our brain or our mind, whatever you want to call it, is our soul. Is how we deal on the fourth dimension. Everything that's dealt with the brain can't be explained. There's a reason why. I mean, I kind of just told you, but yeah. As humans, we know that we're all different. We think differently, we speak differently, we act differently. And although there is influence from, this third dimensional plane, we all have our independent way of thinking or acting or speaking. And even things such as like dreams, like why nobody can explain that neither. But where does that deal? What does that deal with? I'll let you answer that. If anatomical studies worked, right? Shouldn't everything about our bodies from head to toe be able to be explained? They try, trust me, they try, but why is it that we've done so much? We've progressed so far, we've done so much, but there's still unexplained occurrences that happen daily. I'm not even talking about I'm talking about things you can't deny. You have dreams, you have feelings, you have thoughts, and they still can't explain to you why or what these things are in a third dimensional explanation. I mean, right? These are just, seeds I want to plant in your head in case you've never thought about these things. Another one I want to bring up is, have you ever noticed why everything we consumed here on this third dimensional plane is literally battling for your attention? The energy of your brain. Why is it that our energy is so sought after or needed? If you answer that with to make profit, you're not necessarily wrong, but you're thinking on a third dimensional level. Why? Because currency has no value surpassed this plane of existence. I hope throughout this video of me talking, my ADHD isn't showing. It probably is when I get to asking these questions, but they all relate, they all connect. And I want you to ask yourself these questions if you haven't already, of course. I want to say I've gone over all my points. Obviously, I wrote them down because, I'd be talking forever if I didn't. After reviewing my notes, I think I've gone over all the points I wanted to this video, at least. I hope you actually ponder upon these things. And if you're following my logic, that means there's a dimension above ours that you cannot comprehend or explain. But just because you cannot comprehend or explain it, because you cannot see it, doesn't mean that it's not active. Things aren't going on that plane. That's not what that means. You can be a fool and think so and assume so, but yeah, I've got a whole bunch of topics that I want to go over. This is just one. I try not to be all over the place. I'll be on my next topic pretty soon. God is working through me, so I'll be back soon with another one. If you have any questions or anything you want to talk about, DM me or leave it in a comment or whatever. I don't talk in real life. I think I said that before, because this is what fills my brain and I don't know who to share it with. But here I am. Thank God for every day. And until next time. Hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay, whatever's going on in the background.